Hello and welcome back. You are watching the EtchPlay weekly live show. All the latest industry news and discussion from the world of video games every Thursday at 4 PM BST right here on Twitch or on YouTube if you're watching on catch up. We're now joined by Dan Thomas because we're going to have a little discussion, and today's one is a little bit of an issue, a little bit contentious, a little bit controversial maybe even, because Dan Thomas is here to talk about websites and whether you actually really need a website. Dan, welcome to the show again, and
thank you.
Do you want to just go right? Do you want to just dive right into it? Do you want to just tell us what you're here to say?
I'm really scared because this is supposed to be Ben hosting, who I'm far less afraid of calling me to account on my sweeping statements that I'm about to make. But
yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty hard-nosed, cutthroat journalist. I don't know if you know that about me.
Die-hard website lover. But yeah, so the question, do we really need a website, has definitely been something that I've pondered, and I'm sure has crossed the minds of many a games marketer and probably anybody sort of operating in the digital arena. And there's obviously it's a link-baity question. There's a lot of nuance to understand and dig into, a lot of context to get our heads around. But I've given it a lot of thought, and at its simplest, no, I don't think you do need a website. But yeah, we'll dig into it. A better question, I think, is why might we need a website, or why might we not need a website? And just, I think far too many people are just conditioned to just thinking we need a website, and you don't stop and ask why. It's just the dumb thing. Of course we do need a website. And then you get all sorts of perhaps out of sequence approaches to this, and different ways of trying to shoehorn a build into your marketing plan or your game development lifecycle. And I think it needs a little bit more thought and a little bit more consideration. And we talk a lot about the idea of multipliers. When it comes to games marketing, you want to think in terms of multipliers. So some activity or action that we do is going to be a multiplier of either our wish lists or our sales, our pre-orders, whatever the number is that we're trying to stimulate. And the sheer creation of a website is not going to be a particularly effective multiplier. Much like, as we've said before, you can make the best game in the world. Purely doing that is not enough, because nobody will know about it. There is no game genie telling the world about your game. So you could create the best game in the world, put it out there, and then you could create the best website in the world, and then you've just got two really expensive things sat not working for you. So yeah, you need to go beyond make a good game and just make a website. What you need to think about is, where is the attention that we want to get for our game? And there is, much like there aren't people sat there waiting for games to play, there are not people sat there waiting for websites to appear. You need to go where the audience is, and the audience are not on these. They're not just randomly searching Google for new websites to appear. They are hanging out on social media. They're on Reddit, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, TikTok, they're hanging out in Discord communities, or they're here on Twitch. And I can see all the fans in the chat enjoying my opinions here.
Keep going, Dan. Don't ignore them. Yeah. Don't listen to them.
Absolutely. So yeah, you need to go where your audience are, and you need to engage. You need to get attention, and then your game, the transaction for your game is the destination. So you need to go where the audience are. And yeah, I mentioned kind of Twitch, and a quote we've rolled out before: 64% of users purchase products based on recommendations by gaming or esports personalities. So that is a significant motivator to say, okay, well, we've got this game, it's on Steam, let's say, and it's available to be wishlist. Let's go to where the audience are, and let's signpost them straight to it. And you could, of course, signpost them to a website, but then you're also adding another step in the user journey. So this is let's just say this is a small gaming studio. They're just creating their first game, and they've got their destination of their Steam page. Well, then maybe there's an argument to say, well, actually, we can create a really kick-ass Steam page, and then we can put a lot of effort into going where our audience is, engaging with them, and signposting them straight to it. And you are eliminating the most amount of friction, and you are going to capitalize on the maximum amount of attention that you can get.
Yeah.
And not to mention, websites are expensive, they're complicated, they take a long
Ours
time
are.
to build. Everybody's is, or they're not very expensive and they're not very good, and they need updating and they're hard to update. Like there's a lot of headache. There's security considerations. Like they are complicated. Where you could just go and hang out on Twitter and say, go to my Steam page, which is great. And I would suggest, kind of at its most simplest, that's where you want to start from. Not, I'm building a game, I need a website. It's, I'm building a game, I need to get some attention and I need to capitalize. It's very, very difficult to get any attention, so you need to capitalize on it. But all that being said, that's probably where the sophistication then needs to start to come into play, and you need to start thinking. And this whole argument, it's somewhat, as I say, kind of clickbaity. Our objective is not to make websites. Our objective is to create impact and add value. And that's why we think about these things, and that's why we'll challenge these things, and we'll question, well, what is the most impactful way of gaining and leveraging attention? But once you've gone anything more complicated than a single Steam page, let's say, we've done great. We've got an opportunity to release on console. So now we are on Steam and we're on Xbox. Immediately at this point, you've now got a split of focus, and you're going to have to start putting potentially 2 links in, one to your Xbox store, one to your Steam store, and then you get a deal with PlayStation, and then you're on PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, Switch, Epic Games Store, maybe you're doing a mobile port. All of a sudden, this has become unsustainable, pretty much sort of as soon as you're doing anything more complicated than a single destination. So this is where you start to appreciate the value of having a centralized destination that can then inform and signpost and direct the audience accordingly. And just the value that you get just layers on from there on. So I'll now retract all of those points, and we'll talk about some of the scenarios.
When a website's good.
How are you feeling about this so far, Adam?
I mean, I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, and we've definitely seen a shift in the industry away from, and you referenced this about recommendations. In the old days, it was about magazines and traditional press, and then it was about websites that very much emulated the traditional press. Your kind of GameSpots, IGNs, those kind of companies would maybe be really influential for you, and they still can be very influential. But increasingly, like you say, purchase decisions are influenced by influencers, by individuals, or they're sometimes backed by pretty powerful people, but people who are out there on Twitch or YouTube directly engaging with fans and making these kind of deeper recommendations. And the scale of the amount of stuff that comes out, and I know this is something you've talked about before as well, like the number of games coming out now is far beyond what we had in the 2000s, or definitely in the 90s, and like the amount of competition is just completely different. It's like orders of magnitude bigger than it was before, which is great for players because there's never been more choice, but it's also difficult for creators to cut through the noise. And I guess I'm interested in this next segment. So, like, when are websites useful? I presume you still want us to do websites sometimes.
Absolutely, and my whole argument is not, you don't need a website. I actually think they serve an extremely powerful tool within your marketing arsenal. But you've got to think about the purpose, not just, everybody has a website, we need a website, and then you can slap together a website cheaply, or you can go on some website building software, and that can be absolutely fine. But as long as you're answering the questions, what is this doing for us? What do we need this to do for us? And some of the things that you need to do for it, as I've already touched on there, signposting. So as soon as you have a more complicated offering than a single destination, you need somewhere to just cater for your audience based on their preferences. What platform are they on, and where can they go? So signposting is a key one. Persistence as well. So it's great to be in the conversation, and that is definitely the first and most important thing to do, is to build your audience, and you need to do that. You can't just as a metaphor. If you're a kid and you want to play football, you can't just stick some goalposts in your back garden and wait for people to come and play football. You need to go out and find the playing fields, find friends, and play where the audience is. So yes, you need to make use of social media and be involved in the conversation, leverage existing audiences, trends, behaviors, and all these kinds of things. But a social media conversation is gone in an instant, and it is not referenceable. And if you've said something pertinent, or if you've left some of this kind of signposting or key messaging or something that is going to be of future value, you need somewhere for it to live in a more persistent state. Yes, you can link to old tweets, but that's very hard work and cumbersome and actually not very authoritative either, which is another point that we'll come on to. So having somewhere, if you've got some messaging that needs to persist, then a website is a great place for that. And also ownership as well. Yes, you can put all your messaging. You could set your messaging up on a Medium blog. You can have your tweets and Instagram posts and everything else. You've got no control over that, and that could be gone tomorrow. So there's a persistence and an ownership consideration. And then I mentioned authority as well. So if you're dealing with a big exciting brand and you've done something that's newsworthy, and the games media and social media and influencers are all talking about your thing, as the global cycle wakes up and the conversation spreads around the world, people will be looking for the point of authority, and people will look for your website for this. So absolutely having an authoritative, this is the game domain, and this is the press release, or this is the news announcement, and this is quoted, and we control this conversation in this space, and this is the authoritative word. So that's an extremely valuable piece, and you want to own the context around important announcements like that, because you could drop your next amazing trailer and put it on your Twitter feed, and for whatever reason, for whatever is going on in the world that day, something could go wrong, and all of a sudden your prime piece of marketing real estate is surrounded by toxicity or negative comments, and you've got no ownership and no control over that. So having an authoritative space for your messaging can be really, really key. Measurement is another thing. So obviously we can implement analytics, and we can learn a lot from the behavior, so we know what messaging will work, what signposting from the social media conversations are happening that can provide us invaluable bits of information, which is so often overlooked. And you get various metrics and analytics on the various platforms, but it's certainly not ubiquitous, and it's certainly not cohesive. So if you are putting your key messaging on your own site and you've got your own measurement in place, then you can really start to learn what works, and that analysis can provide insight, and you can also do testing with that as well. So you can gauge, okay, well, we've listed a few features. Let's say we've got multiplayer and we've got open world, and you want to expand on those things. Purely by having that information on your website in a measurable environment, you can get a feel for, okay, which of these features are resonating with our audience. So you can kind of curate and control and learn even before you've had to release the game. You can start to learn what's going to resonate with your fans. You can. Sorry, go on. If you.
I was just saying. Yeah, I was nodding. I'm nodding along. You're convincing me, Dan. Keep talking.
Good. Where are you owned? So you also have opportunities to add value. So you can create spaces, you can surface fan art, or you can curate and consolidate all of these different places. So if a new fan is joining your community or taking an interest in your game, do they need to do the legwork of going and sifting through all of the hashtag mentions and all the tweets around your game on Twitter, then the same on Instagram, then the same on Reddit? Or can you provide a curated feed of this is the best of what's going on in the community? So you can really provide some added value there. And then you've also got other things. So if you're building a bit of momentum and you're gaining a bit of success, people want to talk to you, and perhaps maybe sometimes in a more official capacity. So you might have biz dev, you might be looking for investment or publishing, and in that instance you want to start to have a more professional environment. Maybe you want to signpost to your studio page or provide contact details, and again, it's just about setting the context that you can have that conversation in. So yeah, absolutely. I'm somewhat trolling by saying no, there's no point for websites, but I am encouraging that we challenge what is this doing for us, and when is right for us, and what will we need it to do. Not just we need a website. Let's slap some HTML together and then not worry about it for another 3 years whilst it damages our brand.
Yeah, that's a good life lesson. Think about what you really need to do. Like, what's the aim and what's the goal behind having a website? and Ben said this in the chat as well. I can see, if your only reason is that you think that you should, that's not a strong enough reason. Like if you just think it's because everyone's doing it, not necessarily a strong reason to invest a significant amount of money in a web presence potentially. Well, thank you very much, Dan. Are there any final thoughts you want to share, or do you want to trash any other parts of our business while you're here?
Yeah, anything else? Hopefully that's a reasonably considered argument, and there are a lot of reasons to do these things, but I guess it's with any marketing or any business decision, you need to really understand your why. What is this doing for you? So I always say, kind of be that annoying little kid that they're like, why? Just do that to any activity that you're working on for your business or for promoting your game, and that's me finished.
Cool, good advice. If you want to talk about websites, you can chat to us. We're always on Twitter, or you can hit us up in any one of the social networks that we're on. We've got a website because we decided it was worth it. Get in touch if